Okay, so this is the second week of the Worthing Sangha, reading aloud the Dhammapada, and we're beginning this week at section 11, decay. What mirth can there be? What pleasure, when all the time everything is blazing with the threefold fire of suffering, impermanence, and insubstantiality. Covered there you are, in blind darkness. You do not seek a light. Look at this painted doll, the body, this pretentious mass of sores, wretched and full of cravings much hankered after, nothing of which is stable or lasting. Wasted away is this body, a nest of disease and perishable. The putrid mass breaks up. Death is the end of life. When, like gourds in autumn, these dove-grey bones lie here, discarded, what pleasure can one take in looking at them? The body is a city built of bones and plastered with flesh and blood, a city wherein lie concealed decay and death, pride and hypocrisy. Even the richly decorated royal chariots in time wear out. Likewise, the body also perishes. But the truth, the Dhamma, of the good does not perish, for those who are good indeed speak of it to the good. The man of little learning lives like a stalled ox. His flesh increases, but his wisdom does not. Many a birth have I undergone in this process of faring on in the round of conditioned existence, seeking the builder of the house and not finding him. Painful is such repeated birth. House builder, now you are seen. Never again shall you build me a house. Your rafters are all broken, your ridgepole shattered. The conditioned mind too has gone to destruction. One has attained to the cessation of craving. Those who have not led the spiritual life, brahmacharya, or obtained the wealth of merit in their youth, such as these brood over the past, like aged herons in a pond without fish. Those who have not led the spiritual life, the brahmacharya, or obtained the wealth of merit in their youth, such as these lie like worn-out arrows, lamenting the things of old.
Chapter 12, Self. If a man really regards himself as dear, let him well and truly protect himself. During one or another of the 3 watches of the night, the spiritually mature person should keep wide awake. First establish yourself in what is suitable, then advise others. The spiritually mature person should not besmirch himself by acting otherwise. Should you act as advise others to act, then it would be a case of one who was self-controlled exercising control over others. The self is truly difficult to control. One is indeed one's own saviour or protector. What other saviour should there be? With oneself well controlled, one finds a saviour who is hard to find. The evil done by oneself, born of oneself, produced by oneself, destroys the man of evil understanding as a diamond pulverizes a piece of rock crystal. He whose unprincipled behaviour is without limit, like a Maluvia creeper overspreading a sal tree, does to his own self that which his enemy wishes to do to him. Easily done are things which are bad and not beneficial to oneself. What is both beneficial and good, that is exceedingly difficult to do. The man of evil understanding, who on account of his wrong views obstructs or rejects the message of the supremely worthy, the noble ones, the men of authentic life, that wicked person, like a kathak reed, brings forth fruit, i.e., performs actions to his own destruction. A man besmirches himself by the evil he personally commits. Similarly, he purifies himself by personally abstaining from evil. Purity and impurity are matters of personal experience. One man cannot purify another. Consequently, one should not neglect one's own spiritual welfare for the welfare of others, great as that may be. Clearly perceiving what constitutes one's personal welfare, one should devote oneself to one's own good.
Chapter 13, The World. Don't follow inferior principles. Don't live heedlessly. Don't entertain false views. Don't be one who, by following inferior principles, etc., keeps the world going. Get up. Don't be heedless. Live practicing the Dharma which is good conduct. One who lives practicing the Dharma, Dhammakari, dwells happily both in this world and the other world. Live practicing the Dharma. Do not live behaving badly. One who lives practicing the Dharma, Dhammakari, dwells happily both in this world and the other world. Look upon the world as a bubble. Look upon it as a mirage. The king of death does not see one who looks upon the world in this way. Come, just look at this world, which is like a decorated royal chariot in which spiritually immature sink down or are dejected, but with regard to which there is no attachment on the part of those who really know. One who, having formerly been heedless, later is not heedless, lights up the world like the moon when freed from clouds. One who covers over the evil deeds he has done with ethically skillful actions, lights up the world like the moon when freed from clouds. This world is mentally blinded. Few see clearly. Few are those who, like birds freed from the net, go to heaven. Swans fly on the path of the sun. Those with supernormal powers travel through the air. The wise, having conquered Mara and his army, are led away from the world. There is no wrong that cannot be committed by a lying person who has transgressed one good principle, i.e. that of truthfulness, and who has given up all thought of the other world. Truly, misers do not get to the world of the gods. Only the spiritually immature do not praise giving. The wise man rejoices in giving, and therefore is happy in the hereafter. The fruit of stream entry is better than sole sovereignty over the earth, better than going to heaven, better than lordship over all the worlds.
Chapter 14, The Enlightened One. The enlightened one whose sphere is endless, whose victory is irreversible, and after whose victory no defilements remain to be conquered. By what track will you lead him astray, the trackless one? That enlightened one in whom there is not that ensnaring, entangling craving to lead anywhere in conditioned existence, and whose sphere is endless. By what track will you lead him astray, the trackless one? Those wise ones who are intent on absorption in higher meditative states, and who delight in the calm of renunciation, even the gods love them, those thoroughly enlightened and mindful ones. Difficult is the attainment of the human state. Difficult is the life of mortals. Difficult is the hearing of the real truth. Difficult is the appearance of the enlightened ones. The not doing of anything evil, undertaking to do what is ethically skillful, and complete purification of the mind. This is the ordinance of the enlightened ones. Patient endurance is the best form of penance. Nirvana is the highest, say the enlightened ones. No true goer forth from the household life is he who injures another, nor is he a true ascetic who persecutes others. Not to speak evil, not to injure, to exercise restraint through the observance of the almsman's code of conduct, to be moderate in diet, to live alone, and to occupy oneself with higher mental states. This is the ordinance of the enlightened ones. Not even in a shower of money is satisfaction desires to be found. Worldly pleasures are of little relish, indeed painful. Thus understanding, the spiritually mature person takes no delight even in heavenly pleasures. The disciple of the fully, perfectly enlightened one takes delight only in the destruction of craving. Many people, out of fear, flee for refuge to sacred hills, woods, groves, trees, and shrines. In reality, this is not a safe refuge. In reality, this is not the best refuge. Fleeing to such a refuge, one is not released from all suffering. He who goes for refuge to the enlightenment, to the truth, and to the spiritual community, and who sees the perfect wisdom before Aryan truths, namely suffering, the origin of suffering, the passing beyond suffering, and the Aryan Eightfold Way leading to the pacification of suffering. For him, this is a safe refuge. For him, this is the best refuge. Having gone to such a refuge, one is released from all suffering. Hard to come by is the ideal man. He is not born everywhere. Where such a wise man is born, that family grows happy. Happy is the appearance of the enlightened ones. Happy is the teaching of the real truth. Happy is the unity of spiritual community. Happy is the spiritual effort of the united. He who reverences those worthy of reverence, whether enlightened ones or their disciples, men who have transcended illusion and passed beyond grief and lamentation, he who reverences those who are of such a nature, who moreover are at peace and without cause for fear, his merit is not to be reckoned as such and such.
Chapter 15. Happiness. Happy indeed we live, friendly amid the haters. Among men who hate, we dwell free from hate. Happy indeed we live, healthy amid the sick. Among men who are sick, we dwell free from sickness. Happy indeed we live, content amid the greedy. Among men who are greedy, we dwell free from greed. Happy indeed we live, we for whom there are no possessions. Feeders on rapture shall we be, like the gods of brilliant light. Victory begets hatred, for the defeated one experiences suffering. The tranquil one experiences happiness, giving up both victory and defeat. There is no fire like lust, no blemish like demerit, no suffering like the taking up of the 5 constituents of conditioned existence, no happiness like peace. Hunger is the worst disease, conditioned existence the worst suffering. Knowing this, as it really is, one realizes that nirvana is the highest happiness. Health is the highest gain, contentment the greatest riches. The trustworthy are the best kinsmen. Nirvana is the supreme happiness. Having enjoyed the flavour of solitude and tranquillity, free from sorrow and free from sin, one enjoys the rapturous flavour of the truth. Good it is to see the spiritually developed. To actually dwell with them is always happiness. By not seeing the spiritually immature, one indeed will be perpetually happy. By living in company with the spiritually immature, one grieves for a long time. Association with the spiritually immature is always painful, like association with an enemy. Association with the wise is pleasant, like the coming together of relatives. Therefore it is said, follow one who is wise, understanding and learned, who bears the yoke of virtue, is religious and spiritually developed. Follow one of such a nature as the moon follows the path of the stars. Chapter 16. Affections. Devoting himself to the unbefitting and not devoting himself to the fitting, he, rejecting the truly good and grasping the merely pleasant, envies those who are devoted to the truly good. Don't associate with the dear and never with the undear. Not seeing those who are dear is painful, as is seeing those who are not dear. Therefore let nothing be dear to you, for separation from the dear is experienced as an evil. There exists no bonds for those for whom there is neither the dear nor the undear. From the dear arises grief. From the dear arises fear. For the one who is wholly free from the dear, there exists no grief. Whence should fear come? From affection arises grief. From affection arises fear. For one who is wholly free from affection, there exists no grief. Whence should fear come? From sensual enjoyment arises grief. From sensual enjoyment arises fear. For one who is wholly free from sensual enjoyment, there is no grief. Whence should fear come? From lustful desire arises grief. From lustful desire arises fear. For one who is wholly free from lustful desire, there is no grief. Whence should fear come? From craving arises grief. From craving arises fear. For one who is wholly free from craving, there is no grief. Whence should fear come? People hold him dear who is perfect in right conduct and vision, who is principled and a speaker of the truth, and who carries out his own spiritual tasks. He is called one whose streams go upward, in whom is born an ardent aspiration after the undefined, whose mind would be permeated by the thrill of his progress so far, and whose heart is unattached to sensual pleasures. When a man long absent from home returns safely from a distant place, his relatives, friends, and well-wishers rejoice exceedingly at his return. Similarly, his own good deeds receive him when he goes from this world to the other world, as relatives receive a dear one on his return home.
Anger. Let one give up anger, renounce conceit, and overcome all fetters. Suffering does not befall him who is unattached to name and form, nama rupa, the psychophysical existence, and who is without material or mental possessions, akinkana. I call him a charioteer who holds back the arisen anger as though holding back a swerving chariot. Others are only holders of reins. Overcome the angry by non-anger. Overcome the wicked with good. Overcome the miserly by giving. The teller of lies with the truth. Speak the truth. Do not get angry. Give your might to those who ask for alms. Of these three grounds, one goes into the presence of the gods. Those silent sages who are harmless, ahimsakas, and always self-controlled, go to the immovable abode. Whither, having gone, they do not grieve. They come to the end of their defilements, ashavas, those who keep awake, who study day and night, and who are intent on nirvana. This is an old story, Attila, not just one of today. They blame him who is taciturn. They blame him who is talkative. They even blame him who speaks in moderation. There is no one in the world who is not blamed. There has not been, nor will there be, nor is there anyone now who is absolutely blamed or absolutely praised. Who is entitled to blame that man who is like a coin of Jambunada gold, a man who is praised by the wise, by those who have tested him day by day, one who is free from faults, a man of understanding, and whose wisdom and understanding are well integrated. Even the gods praise such a man. By Brahma, too, he is praised. Be on your guard against bodily agitation. Be controlled in body. Giving up bodily misconduct. Live well behaved as regards the body. Be on your guard against verbal agitation. Be controlled in speech. Giving up verbal misconduct. Live well behaved as regards speech. Be on your guard against mental agitation. Be controlled in mind. Giving up mental misconduct. Live well behaved as regards the mind. They are the perfectly restrained ones, the wise who are controlled in body and speech, together with the wise who are controlled as regards the mind.
Chapter 18, Stains. You are now like a withered leaf. Death's men have approached you. You stand at the door of departure, and you do not even have provisions for the road. Make a lamp. or island for yourself. Strive quickly and become one who is spiritually mature. With stains removed and free from blemish, you will reach the celestial plane of the spiritually developed. You are now of advanced age. You have gone forth into the presence of death. There is no resting place for you in between, and you do not even have provisions for the road. Make a lamp or island for yourself. Strive quickly and become one who is spiritually mature, with stains removed and free from blemish. You will not undergo repeated birth and old age any more. The man of understanding removes his stains gradually, little by little, and from moment to moment, just as a silversmith removes the impurities of silver. Just as rust springing from iron, having sprung from that, eats it away, even so his own actions lead the transgressor to the evil state. Non-repetition is the stain of the orally transmitted sacred verses. Inactivity in maintaining them is the stain of houses. Sloth is the stain of beauty of complexion. Heedlessness is the stain of one who guards. Misconduct is the stain of a woman. Stingingness is the stain of one who gives. Both in this world and the other world, stains are indeed evil things. A greater stain than these is ignorance, which is the supreme stain. Abandoning this stain, be stainless, almsman. He has an easy life who is shameless, impudent as a crow, disparaging of others' merits, obtrusive, arrogant, and of a corrupt way of life. Life is hard for one with a sense of shame, who always seeks purity, who is unattached or strenuous, who is humble and of a pure way of life and discerning. Whoever in this world of ours destroys life, tells lies, takes what is not given, resorts to the wives of others, and is addicted to the drinking of intoxicants, that man in this world himself digs up his own roots of merit. Know this, good man, those having an evil nature are uncontrolled. Don't let greed and unrighteousness subject you to prolonged suffering. People, give alms according to their faith and at their good pleasure. One who is disconnected about the food and drink of others does not obtain concentration, be it by day or by night. One in whom this kind of attitude is extirpated, it being destroys at its roots and abolished, he obtains concentration, be it by day or by night. There is no fire like lust. There is no grip like anger. There is no net like delusion. There is no river like craving. The faults of others are easily seen. One's own faults are seen with difficulty. One winnows the faults of others like chaff, but one covers up one's own as a dishonest gambler covers up a losing throw of the dice. He who pays attention to the faults of others and is always irritable, his defilements grow. He is far from the destruction of the defilements. There is no track in the sky, there is no true ascetic outside this teaching. The race of men delight in illusion. The Tathagatas, the Buddha or enlightened ones, are free from illusions. There is no track in the sky, there is no true ascetic outside this teaching. There are no conditioned things that are eternal. There is no vacillation in the enlightened ones.
Chapter 19. The Man of Principle. He is not a man of principle who rashly judges what is advantageous. The spiritually mature person who judges both what is advantageous and disadvantageous, who judges others impartially, carefully, and in accordance with principle, that man of understanding, guarded of principle, is said to be a man of principle. A man is not spiritually mature or learned merely because he talks a lot. He is said to be spiritually mature who is secure in himself, friendly and without fear. He is not a vessel of teaching merely because he talks a lot. He who, having heard only a little, personally sees the truth, he truly is a vessel of the teaching, that man who is not neglectful of the teaching. A man is not an elder amongst helmsmen because his head is grey. Though of mature age, he is called grown old in vain. He is truly called an elder amongst almsmen, in whom are truth and principle, together with harmlessness, self-control and restraint, and who is without stain and wise. One who is jealous, miserly, and dishonest is not accounted good merely by reason of his speechifying or beautiful complexion. He is said to be good, that fault-free man of understanding, in whom this kind of behavior is extirpated, it being destroyed at its roots and abolished. A man who is without religious observances and who speaks what is false is not an ascetic merely by reason of his shaven head. He who stills all his evils, small and great, is said to be ascetic because those evils have been stilled. One is not an almsman merely because he begs alms from others. One is not an almsman merely because of having adopted a bad teaching. He is said to be an almsman who lives in the world of discrimination, having by means of the spiritual life set aside merit and demerit. One who is confused and ignorant does not become a silent sage merely by observing silence. That spiritually mature person who, as if holding a pair of scales, accepts the best and rejects the evil, he is a silent sage. He is a silent sage for that very reason. He is also called a silent sage because he understands both worlds. A man who harms living beings is not one who is spiritually developed. He is said to be spiritually developed who is harmless towards all living beings. Without having attained to the destruction of the defilements, almsmen, you should not rest content with rules of conduct and religious observances, or with much learning, with the attainment of concentration, or with living in seclusion, nor with thinking, I enjoy the bliss of renunciation that is unknown to ordinary people.
Chapter 20. The Way. Best of ways is the Eightfold Way. Best of truths are the Four Truths. Passionless is the best of mental states. The man of vision is the best of bipeds. This indeed is the way. There is no other that leads to purity of vision. Enter upon the way. This way is the bewilderment of Mara. Following this way, you will make an end of suffering. This indeed is the way proclaimed by me ever since I knew how to draw out the darts of craving. By you must the zealous effort be made. The Tathagatas, that is the Buddhas or enlightened ones, are only proclaimers of the way. Those who are practitioners, absorbed in higher meditative states, eventually win release from the bondage of Mara. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. All conditioned things are painful. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. All things whatsoever are devoid of unchanging selfhood. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. One who does not make use of his spiritual opportunities, who, though young and strong, is lazy, weak in aspiration, and inactive, such a lazy person does not find the way to insight. Guarded in speech, as well as controlled in mind, let one do no ethically unskillful thing with the body. Purifying these three avenues of action, let him attain the way made known by the sages. From application arises the spiritually great. From the lack of application, the spiritually great wanes. Having known these two avenues of increase and decrease of the great, let him so establish himself that the great may flourish. Cut down the whole forest, not just one tree. From the forest arises fear. Cutting down both wood and brushwood, be out of the wood, arms now. To the extent that one has not cut down the last little bit of this brushwood of the craving of man for woman, to that extent his mind will be fettered as a sucking calf to its mother. Cut off your sticky affection as one plucks with one's hand the white autumnal lotus. Develop the way of peace, the nirvana taught by the happy one. Here shall I stay during the rains, here in the cold season and the hot. Thus thinks the spiritually immature person. He does not understand the dangers to life. That infatuated man whose delight is in offspring and cattle, death goes and carries him off as a great flood sweeps away a sleeping village. Sons are no protection, nor father, nor yet other relatives. For him who is seized by the end maker, that is death, there is no protection forthcoming from relatives. Knowing the significance of this, let the spiritually mature person, the man restrained by good conduct, speedily cleanse the way leading to nirvana.